Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to our channel, where we share inspiring stories that warm your heart and spark your spirit. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and join our amazing community. We'd love to have you here. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We're excited to hear from every corner of the world. Sit back, relax, and get ready for a story that will leave you feeling inspired. The park was alive with the sounds of laughter and the rhythmic chatter of life. Children darted between benches, clutching balloons and chasing bubbles, while couples strolled leisurely, enjoying the warmth of the afternoon sun. Vendors called out from their carts, offering ice cream and roasted peanuts, their cheerful voices adding to the symphony of the bustling park. Amidst the lively scene, a tension simmered near a bench under a large oak tree. A man stood towering over a woman, his voice sharp and accusatory, slicing through the otherwise serene atmosphere. "You bumped into me. Look at this mess," he barked, pointing to a dark stain spreading across his shirt where a drink had spilled. The woman, Sarah, sat frozen, clutching her worn purse tightly against her chest. Her cheeks flushed red as she stammered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It was an accident." The man's frustration escalated. "An accident? Do you know how much this shirt cost? Someone needs to take responsibility," he snapped, his voice growing louder, drawing the attention of nearby park-goers. A small crowd began to gather, their murmurs a mix of curiosity and unease, but no one stepped forward. Sarah's trembling hands betrayed her anxiety as she tried to explain herself, her words tumbling out in broken fragments. From a shaded path nearby, Melania Trump, dressed simply in a flowing blouse and sunglasses, strolled quietly, observing the lively scene around her. She had come to the park for a peaceful afternoon, hoping to escape the relentless attention that often followed her. But her eyes were quickly drawn to the commotion near the bench. She slowed her pace, her gaze narrowing as she noticed the distressed woman and the man's aggressive posture. Something about Sarah's hunched shoulders and trembling voice struck a chord in her. Melania paused, removing her sunglasses as she approached the growing crowd. She moved with quiet confidence, the type that commanded attention without demanding it. The man, mid-rant, didn't notice her until she was standing just a few feet away. "Excuse me," Melania said, her voice calm but firm. The man turned, startled by her sudden presence. "What's going on here?" "This woman bumped into me and spilled my drink," he said defensively, gesturing at Sarah. "And now she's acting like it's no big deal." Melania's eyes shifted to Sarah, who was visibly shaken, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Are you all right?" she asked softly, her tone warm and steady. Sarah nodded faintly, but her tear-filled eyes told a different story. Melania turned back to the man, her expression unreadable but unwavering. "It sounds like an accident," she said firmly. "There's no need to intimidate her over something that can easily be resolved." The crowd grew quiet, the weight of Melania's calm authority settling over the scene. The man hesitated, his anger suddenly deflated under her gaze. The atmosphere shifted, the tension beginning to dissolve as her words hung in the air. The man, caught off guard by Melania's calm but firm presence, took a step back, his confidence wavering. "She still needs to take responsibility," he muttered, though his voice had lost much of its edge. The crowd, sensing the shift in tone, murmured in quiet agreement with Melania's intervention. A few bystanders nodded, and one stepped forward with a pack of tissues, offering it to help clean up the spill. The small gesture seemed to diffuse some of the remaining tension. Melania didn't flinch, her gaze steady as she addressed the man again. "Accidents happen," she said evenly, her voice carrying a natural authority that silenced the growing whispers around them. "There's no need to make someone feel small because of an unfortunate mishap. Let's focus on resolving this instead of escalating it." Her words, delivered without hostility, carried an undeniable weight, drawing the crowd's attention to the unnecessary cruelty of the man's outburst. He opened his mouth as if to retort, but found himself at a loss. The crowd's subtle shift in favor of Melania's logic left him with little ground to stand on. With a frustrated sigh, he shook his head. "Fine," he said, waving a dismissive hand before walking away, muttering something under his breath. The collective tension in the air seemed to dissipate as he disappeared into the park's crowd. Melania turned her attention back to Sarah, who was still seated on the bench, visibly shaken. Placing a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder, she knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "Are you all right?" she asked softly, her expression full of concern. Sarah nodded, though her tear-filled eyes betrayed her vulnerability. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. It's okay, Melania reassured her, her tone soothing. You don't need to apologize for an accident. You did nothing wrong. She motioned to the tissues a bystander had offered and began gently wiping the small spill on Sarah's coat. Her kindness and calm attention seemed to steady Sarah, who managed a faint smile despite her lingering unease. The crowd, now dispersed, left a few lingering observers who quietly admired the interaction. One person, an elderly woman sitting nearby, remarked to a companion, "It's rare to see someone step in like that these days." Sarah finally spoke, her voice steadier now. "Thank you," she said, her hands clutching her purse tightly. "I didn't know what to do. I felt so small." Melania gave her a reassuring smile. "No one should feel that way," she replied. "You're stronger than you think, and you're not alone." For a moment, the two women shared a quiet understanding. Sarah's breathing slowed, her shoulders relaxing as the initial shock of the encounter began to fade. Melania, standing gracefully, offered her hand to help Sarah to her feet. "Come," she said gently. "Let's walk for a moment. Sometimes it helps to clear the mind." Sarah hesitated briefly before accepting, her trust in Melania growing as they began walking away from the scene, leaving behind the echoes of an encounter that had already started to inspire those who had witnessed it. As Melania and Sarah strolled slowly along the park's winding paths, the warm sunlight filtered through the trees, casting soft patterns on the ground. Sarah clutched her purse tightly, her steps tentative at first, but the steady presence of Melania beside her seemed to ease some of her tension. They walked in silence for a few moments, allowing the echoes of the earlier confrontation to dissipate. Finally, Melania spoke, her tone calm and inviting. "It seemed like there was more troubling you than just what happened with that man," she said gently. "Would you like to talk about it?" Her words weren't prying, but filled with genuine care, as if she wanted nothing more than to help lighten Sarah's burden. Sarah hesitated, her lips parting as if to speak, then pressing together again. Her eyes darted to the children playing nearby, the carefree laughter seeming so distant from her own reality. "I don't even know where to begin," she said quietly, her voice tinged with weariness. But something in Melania's steady gaze encouraged her to continue. "It's been a rough year. I lost my job a few months ago. Cutbacks, they said. And finding work has been hard." She paused, taking a deep breath as her grip on her purse tightened. "I've been doing what I can. Temp work, small jobs here and there. But it's not enough. I'm barely keeping up with rent, and every week feels like a fight to make ends meet." Her voice broke slightly, and she looked away, embarrassed by her vulnerability. "The groceries today. I shouldn't have been there. I didn't even have enough for what I needed. And then that man—" She stopped, shaking her head as tears welled up in her eyes. Melania listened intently, her expression soft but focused, giving Sarah the space to pour out her story. When Sarah finally glanced back at her, Melania reached out and placed a comforting hand on her arm. "You're carrying so much on your shoulders," she said softly. "It's no wonder today felt like too much. But please don't blame yourself for that man's behavior. You've been doing the best you can in a difficult situation." Sarah's eyes filled with gratitude, but doubt lingered in her voice. "It just feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough," she murmured. "I don't know how much longer I can keep going." Melania's gaze didn't waver. "You're stronger than you realize," she said firmly. "Sometimes we just need a little help to see that strength and to keep moving forward." Encouraged by Sarah's openness, Melania discreetly asked a few more questions about her circumstances, listening as Sarah explained her background, skills, and the challenges she had faced while searching for steady work. Melania nodded thoughtfully, her intuition telling her that this encounter wasn't by chance. As they reached the end of the path, Melania's mind was already working, formulating a way to help Sarah beyond words of comfort. But for now, she simply said, "Let's stay in touch. I may know someone who can help." The sincerity in her voice left no room for doubt, and for the first time in months, Sarah felt a spark of hope. After parting ways, Melania couldn't shake the weight of Sarah's story. The vulnerability in her voice, the quiet desperation she carried, and the small glimmer of hope she had shown stayed with her. Sitting at home later that evening, Melania opened her laptop and began reaching out to a trusted network of organizations she had supported in the past. She described Sarah's situation with careful attention to detail, ensuring she preserved Sarah's dignity while making it clear how urgent her need for assistance was. One email in particular was sent to a local women's support organization that specialized in helping individuals like Sarah get back on their feet. Melania had worked with them discreetly in the past, funding programs and connecting women to critical resources without drawing public attention. Her message was clear. This woman is determined but overwhelmed. She needs support, not just financial help, but guidance and tools to rebuild her life. The organization responded swiftly, moved by Melania's direct appeal and her reputation for following through. Within days, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end introduced themselves as a representative of a local women's initiative. "We heard about your story and wanted to offer some support," they said. Sarah froze, unsure how they even knew about her, but as they explained the services available, job placement assistance, financial counseling, and access to resources like childcare, her initial confusion gave way to cautious hope. "This must be a mistake," Sarah said hesitantly. "I didn't reach out to anyone," but the voice on the line reassured her. "Sometimes, others see our strength before we do. This is your chance to focus on yourself and move forward." Still stunned, Sarah agreed to meet with a counselor from the organization the next day. When she hung up, she sat quietly for a moment, the magnitude of the call settling in. She hadn't told anyone else about her conversation with Melania, but she began to suspect that this lifeline wasn't a coincidence. Meanwhile, Melania followed the progress discreetly, ensuring Sarah received the help she needed without ever stepping into the spotlight. She exchanged updates with the organization, confirming that Sarah was actively participating in the programs and had begun to see a path forward. A few days later, she wrote a short, heartfelt note to Sarah, sending it through the organization. The note read, "Dear Sarah, I just wanted to remind you how strong you are. Taking steps forward is never easy, but you're doing it. Remember, you're not alone. There are people rooting for you every step of the way. With care, Melania." When Sarah received the note, her hands trembled slightly as she read the words. She clutched it to her chest, the simple act of kindness making her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. Sarah didn't know the full extent of what Melania had done behind the scenes, but the hope she felt now was undeniable. For the first time in a long time, she believed things could truly get better. Months passed, and the changes in Sarah's life were nothing short of transformative. What had once seemed like insurmountable challenges were now manageable steps forward. With the support of the organization Melania had quietly connected her to, Sarah had secured a stable job at a local office, a position that utilized her skills and provided her with a steady income. For the first time in a long while, she could pay her bills on time, restock her pantry, and even set aside small savings for emergencies. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Her children noticed the difference too, as their mother's laughter returned and the tension that had filled their small apartment eased. Sarah no longer avoided the grocery store out of fear of not having enough. Instead, she shopped confidently, grateful for the small victories she had achieved. One afternoon, as she packed lunches for her children, Sarah's thoughts drifted to the pivotal moment in the park. She remembered Melania's calm voice, the steady hand on her shoulder, and the quiet assurance that she wasn't alone. That moment had been the spark she needed, but it was Melania's unseen efforts afterward that had truly changed her path. The thought filled her with gratitude, but also a desire to give back. Sarah reached out to the same organization that had helped her, offering to volunteer her time. She wanted to be part of the network that had lifted her up and ensure others like her could find the same support. She started small, organizing donation drives and helping with administrative tasks, but quickly found herself connecting with women who were walking the same path she had once been on. Her empathy and understanding made her a natural mentor, and she became a source of comfort and inspiration to others. When asked about her transformation, Sarah often shared her story, though she never revealed Melania's involvement. She felt it was a private kindness that didn't need public acknowledgement. Instead, she focused on the message of hope and the power of community. Her story resonated with those who heard it, inspiring a wave of donations and volunteers for the organization. Local businesses took notice, offering support in the form of funding and job opportunities, further strengthening the community network. Meanwhile, Melania followed the progress quietly from afar. She read the occasional updates sent by the organization, smiling as she learned of Sarah's success and her efforts to help others. For Melania, the true reward wasn't in recognition, but in knowing that a simple act of kindness had grown into something far greater than she had imagined. Sitting in her home one evening, Melania reflected on the journey that had started with a single moment in the park. It was a reminder that compassion didn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it was the small, quiet actions that carried the greatest impact. Through Sarah's transformation, Melania saw the ripple effect of kindness, proving that one person's care could change not just a life, but an entire community. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and inspiring content. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What's the kindest act you've ever witnessed or experienced? Share your story in the comments below, and let's keep spreading positivity together. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. Thank you for being part of our incredible community.